Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hub, and before you click away, let me ask you something that might change your life forever. What if I told you that a simple penny from 1972, something you might have spent on candy or tossed into a jar without thinking twice, could be worth $3.7 million? That's right. Not 300, not 3,000, but millions of dollars for a coin that looks almost identical to every other penny you've ever held in your hand. And here's the kicker. This coin could be hiding in your collection right now, waiting to transform your entire financial future. So buckle up, because what I'm about to reveal will make you rush to check every single 1972 penny you can find. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can a penny possibly be worth millions? And trust me, by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why collectors are going absolutely insane trying to track down this particular error coin. But before we dive deep into the story of this 1972 treasure, let me tell you something else. This isn't even the most shocking coin we're covering today, because stick around until the end and I'll reveal another penny that sold for $2 million. And the story behind that one will blow your mind even more. So make sure you watch until the very end, because you definitely don't want to miss what's coming. So let's talk about this 1972 Lincoln penny that shattered records when it sold for an unbelievable $3.7 million at auction, making it one of the most valuable pennies ever discovered in the entire history of American coinage. And to understand why this coin is worth more than most people's houses, we need to travel back in time to 1972. A year when America was dealing with inflation, political turmoil with the Watergate scandal brewing, and the Vietnam War still raging. But at the United States Mint facilities in Philadelphia and Denver, something extraordinary was happening in the coin production process that would create one of the most sought-after error coins in existence. The Philadelphia Mint was churning out billions of Lincoln cents that year, with the standard copper composition that pennies had maintained for decades, featuring Abraham Lincoln's iconic profile on the obverse designed by Victor David Brenner back in 1909, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse that had been introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. But here's where things get fascinating. In the chaos and high-speed production of making millions of coins, every single day, a catastrophic minting error occurred that would create what numismatists now call one of the holy grails of error coin collecting. What happened was this: during the striking process at the Philadelphia Mint, a small number of pennies were struck on the wrong planchet, meaning instead of being struck on the standard copper zinc planchet that was supposed to be used for pennies, these coins were accidentally struck on planchets that were intended for dimes. And we're not talking about just any mix-up here. These were struck on silver-clad planchets that were meant for Roosevelt dimes, creating what's known in the numismatic world as a wrong planchet error or off-metal strike, which is considered one of the most valuable types of minting errors that can possibly occur. Now imagine this: you're a quality control inspector at the Mint in 1972, and you're supposed to catch errors like this before they escape into circulation. But with millions of coins being produced every hour, these rare mistakes slipped through the cracks and made their way into pocket change across America. And for years, decades even, these coins sat in piggy banks, coin jars, and cash registers completely unnoticed, because unless you knew exactly what to look for, you'd never suspect that your ordinary-looking 1972 penny was actually struck on silver and worth a fortune. The technical specifications of this error are absolutely crucial to understanding its value, because a normal 1972 Lincoln penny weighs exactly 3.11 grams and has a diameter of 19 millimeters. But the 1972 penny struck on a dime planchet weighs only 2.27 grams because dime planchets are smaller and lighter, plus it has a distinctive silver color instead of the typical copper appearance. Although after decades of circulation, many of these coins developed enough toning and patina that their silver composition became less obvious to the untrained eye, which is why so many of them went undetected for so long, sitting right under people's noses. Collectors and numismatists describe finding one of these coins as like discovering buried treasure in your own backyard, because the combination of the wrong metal composition, the historical significance of the error, and the extreme rarity of surviving examples has created a perfect storm of desirability that drives prices into the stratosphere. And when the first few examples started appearing at coin shows and auctions in the late 1970s and early 1980s, experts were stunned because they realized that what they were looking at was essentially a mint-fresh minting disaster that had somehow survived undetected for years. The grading of these error coins is another critical factor in determining their value, because like all rare coins, condition is everything in the numismatic market, and a 1972 penny struck on a silver dime planchet that grades MS65 or higher on the Sheldon scale, meaning it's in mint state condition with minimal wear and excellent eye appeal, can command prices that most people couldn't even dream of, whereas examples that show significant circulation wear or damage might still be valuable. But nowhere near that magical multi-million-dollar threshold that makes headlines and creates instant millionaires. Authentication is absolutely essential when dealing with coins of this magnitude, because unfortunately wherever there's money to be made, there are counterfeiters and scammers trying to deceive unsuspecting collectors. So any 1972 penny that you believe might be struck on the wrong planchet needs to be submitted to a reputable third-party grading service like PCGS, the Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, where expert authenticators will examine the coin under high-powered magnification, conduct chemical analysis to verify the metal composition, check the weight and dimensions with precision instruments, and look for all the telltale signs of a genuine mint error versus a clever fake or altered coin. The auction history of these coins reads like a financial thriller, because when that record-breaking example sold for $3.7 million, it sent shockwaves through the entire coin-collecting community and made front-page news in numismatic publications around the world, with collectors suddenly realizing that what they might have dismissed as pocket change could actually be their ticket to early retirement, and dealers reported a massive surge in people bringing in their old penny collections hoping to discover they had one of these treasures hiding in plain sight. What makes this particular error so special compared to other minting mistakes is the combination of several factors working together. First, you have the wrong planchet error, which is inherently rare because mint quality control processes are specifically designed to prevent exactly this type of mistake. Second, you have the silver composition, which makes the coin materially different from normal pennies and gives it intrinsic precious metal value on top of its numismatic value. Third, you have the historical context of 1972, which was a significant year in American history and adds another layer of collectability. And fourth, you have the extreme scarcity because only a tiny handful of these coins are known to exist in collections worldwide, making each example exponentially more valuable because supply is virtually non-existent while demand from wealthy collectors is through the roof. Stories of discovery are what really capture the imagination of both collectors and casual observers, because there's something deeply thrilling about the idea that you could be holding a fortune in your hands without even knowing it. And over the years, there have been multiple documented cases of people finding these 1972 error pennies in the most unexpected places. One famous story involves a man who inherited his grandfather's coin collection and almost donated it to charity without checking it first, only to discover at the last minute that one of the pennies was struck on a silver dime planchet and worth enough money to pay off his mortgage and put his kids through college. The psychological aspect of coin collecting, especially when it comes to error coins like this 1972 treasure, cannot be overstated because it taps into fundamental human desires for discovery, fortune, and the thrill of finding something valuable that others have overlooked. And this is why YouTube channels, websites, and social media platforms dedicated to coin collecting have exploded in popularity over recent years as more and more people catch the bug and start scrutinizing their spare change with a magnifying glass, hoping to be the next person to uncover a multi-million-dollar penny. Technical identification of a genuine 1972 penny on dime planchet requires attention to specific details that differentiate it from normal pennies and from other types of errors, starting with the weight, which should be around 2.27 grams instead of the normal 3.11 grams, then looking at the diameter, which will be slightly smaller than a standard penny, examining the edge of the coin, which should show the characteristic copper-nickel-copper sandwich layering of a clad dime planchet rather than the solid copper construction of a normal penny, checking for the distinctive silver-gray color that may still be visible especially on less circulated examples, and finally looking at the overall strike quality, which often shows slight weakness or incompleteness because the dies designed to strike pennies on 19mm planchets were instead striking 17.9mm dime planchets, resulting in subtle die alignment issues or edge irregularities that experts can spot. The broader context of mint errors in American numismatics helps explain why collectors are willing to pay such astronomical prices for coins like this 1972 penny. Because throughout the history of the United States Mint, errors have occurred with varying degrees of frequency and severity, from relatively common double dies and repunched mint marks that might add modest premiums to a coin's value, all the way up to major errors like wrong planchet strikes, off-center strikes, and blank planchets that escape the mint. And within this hierarchy of errors, off-metal strikes are considered among the most dramatic and desirable because they represent a fundamental breakdown in the minting process where a coin wasn't just struck poorly, it was struck on the completely wrong piece of metal entirely. Investment potential is another angle that drives interest in these ultra-rare error coins, because while coin collecting traditionally has been viewed as a hobby rather than a pure investment vehicle, coins like the 3.7 million $1,972 penny have demonstrated that rare numismatic items can appreciate in value far faster than traditional investments like stocks, bonds, or real estate, especially when you consider that someone might have found this coin in circulation for face value and decades later sold it for millions, representing a return on investment that would make even the savviest Wall Street traders jealous. The community of error coin collectors is passionate, knowledgeable, and always on the hunt for the next big discovery, with forums, clubs, and online groups dedicated to sharing information about new finds, authentication techniques, and market values. And within this community, the 1972 penny struck on a silver dime planchet holds almost mythical status as the ultimate find, the coin that every searcher dreams about discovering someday. And this sense of possibility, the idea that lightning could strike and you could be the next person to find one of these treasures, keeps people engaged in the hobby and constantly checking their coins. Now here's something that will really make you want to dig through your old pennies. Not every 1972 penny on a dime planchet has been discovered yet, and experts believe that there could still be examples sitting in old collections, estate sales, or even still in circulation after all these years, because think about it, if a coin looks relatively normal at first glance and has been sitting in someone's drawer for 50 years, they might never have examined it closely enough to realize what they had. And this is why education about error coins is so important, because knowledge is literally power when it comes to recognizing valuable minting mistakes. The metallurgical analysis of these coins provides fascinating insights into the minting process and how errors occur, because when scientists examine a genuine 1972 penny on a dime planchet under spectroscopic analysis, they can see the exact composition of the clad layers used in dime production, typically an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, which is completely different from the 95% copper and 5% zinc composition of normal pennies from that era. And this scientific evidence is one of the primary methods experts use to authenticate these coins and separate genuine examples from counterfeits or altered coins. Market dynamics for ultra-rare coins like this operate on completely different principles than normal coin collecting. because when you're dealing with items where only a handful of examples exist worldwide, the market becomes incredibly thin with long periods between sales, and when one of these coins does come up for auction, it often attracts attention from the wealthiest collectors in the world who are willing to engage in bidding wars that can drive prices to seemingly irrational levels. But for these collectors, it's not about rational investment returns. It's about owning a piece of numismatic history, possessing something that almost no one else in the world can have, and the prestige and satisfaction that comes with being one of the elite few who can claim ownership of such a rarity. The human stories behind these coins are often just as compelling as the coins themselves. From the original mint employees who might have been present when the error occurred without even realizing it, to the first person who discovered the error and recognized its significance, to the subsequent owners who have preserved and cherished these coins over the decades, to the auction houses and dealers who facilitate the sales that bring buyers and sellers together and establish market values. Each person in this chain has played a role in the journey of these remarkable pieces of American monetary history. Conservation and preservation of error coins like the 1972 penny on dime Planchet is absolutely critical because any damage, cleaning, or mishandling can drastically reduce the coin's value, which is why serious collectors store these treasures in specially designed holders that protect them from environmental factors like moisture, air pollution, and physical damage, and why they never, ever clean their coins because even gentle cleaning can leave microscopic scratches that will be immediately detected during professional grading and result in a lower grade and lower value. The psychology of value is interesting to consider when you think about why a small piece of metal with a face value of 1 cent can be worth millions of dollars. And the answer lies in the intersection of scarcity, desirability, historical significance, and the collective agreement among collectors that these items have value. Similar to how art collectors might pay millions for a painting that cost the artist relatively little to create, the value isn't in the materials but in the story, the uniqueness, the provenance, and the emotional connection that collectors feel toward these objects. Now remember when I told you at the beginning that we have another incredible coin to discuss today? Well, that coin is coming up next, and trust me, the story behind it will absolutely blow your mind because we're talking about a penny from 1995 that sold for $2 million. And wait until you hear about the bizarre circumstances that created this error and made it one of the most controversial and discussed coins in modern numismatic history. So whatever you do, don't click away now because you're about to discover something that could genuinely change how you look at pocket change forever. But first, take a moment right now to go grab any 1972 pennies you might have around the house. Check their weight if you have a scale, look at the color, examine the edge, because who knows, you might just be holding on to a $3.7 million treasure without even realizing it, and that possibility, that hope, that fortune might be hiding in plain sight, is what makes the world of error coin collecting so absolutely addictive and thrilling for millions of people around the world. And it's why channels like Error Coins Hub exist, to educate, inform, and inspire people to look more closely at the coins passing through their hands every single day, because you never know when you might stumble upon something extraordinary. Last, the 1995 D. Lincoln penny worth $2 million. And if you thought the 1972 story was unbelievable, prepare yourself because what happened with this particular coin is even more extraordinary and controversial, involving a mint error so rare and so hotly debated that experts are still arguing about it to this very day. And when I reveal exactly what makes this penny worth $2 million, you're going to immediately want to search through every coin from the mid-1990s that you can get your hands on, because this error is subtle, easy to miss with the naked eye, but absolutely devastating in terms of value when you find a genuine example. The 1995 D. Lincoln penny that sold for this astronomical $2 million price tag represents what many consider the holy grail of modern mint errors. And to understand why, we need to journey back to 1995 when the Denver Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents for circulation, continuing the proud tradition of the Lincoln Memorial reverse design that had been in use since 1959, and employing modern striking technology that was supposed to make errors virtually impossible. Yet somehow, against all odds, a small number of pennies were struck with what numismatists call a double die obverse error, but not just any double die. This was the most dramatic doubling that experts had seen in decades, creating a coin that would eventually be certified, authenticated, and sold for enough money to buy a luxury home in most American cities. Let me explain exactly what a double die error is and why it creates such valuable coins, because understanding the technical aspects will help you recognize these treasures if you ever encounter them, and trust me, knowledge is power in the coin collecting world. A double die occurs during the hubbing process at the mint when the working die that will be used to strike coins receives multiple impressions from the master hub, and if these impressions are not perfectly aligned, you get doubling in the design elements of the coin, which can range from slight doubling that's barely noticeable even under magnification, all the way up to dramatic doubling where letters, numbers, or design elements appear to have a strong ghost image or shadow that's immediately visible even to the untrained eye, and the 1995 D double die obverse penny falls into this latter category with doubling so severe that once you know what to look for, you can spot it from across the room. The specific doubling on this 1995 D penny appears most dramatically on the word Liberty and the date 1995, where the letters and numbers show strong secondary images that create a striking visual effect that collectors describe as Class 1 double die, meaning the doubling resulted from a rotational misalignment during the hubbing process, and you can see this doubling spreading outward from the center of the coin toward the rim, with the letters in Liberty showing particularly strong doubling on the vertical strokes of the letters, and the date showing doubling where the numbers appear to have bold shadows or echo images that make them look almost three-dimensional when viewed under proper lighting and magnification. What makes this error even more remarkable is the controversy surrounding how many of these coins actually exist, because unlike the 1972 penny struck on dime Planchet where the error is obvious and undeniable once authenticated, the 1995 D double die has sparked intense debate within the numismatic community about how many genuine examples exist versus how many are counterfeits, alterations, or coins that show post-strike doubling rather than true die doubling, and this uncertainty actually increases the value of certified authentic examples because collectors know that authentication is difficult and examples that pass muster with major grading services are beyond rare. The story of how this error was discovered reads like a detective novel, because the first example wasn't found by a professional coin dealer or numismatist. It was discovered by an ordinary person who noticed something unusual about a penny they received in change, and they had the wisdom to hold on to it and eventually have it examined by experts who confirmed that they were looking at something extraordinary. And this discovery sparked a frenzy in the coin collecting community as people began searching through rolls and bags of 1995 D pennies hoping to find additional examples, leading to one of the largest coordinated coin searches in modern numismatic history, with collectors going through millions of pennies looking for this needle in a haystack. The Denver Mint in 1995 was operating at full capacity, producing hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents to meet the demands of commerce, and within this massive production run, the working die that created these double die errors was likely used for only a very brief period before quality control inspectors caught the problem and removed the die from service, meaning the window of opportunity for these error coins to be struck was incredibly narrow, possibly just a few hours or even minutes, which explains why so few examples have been authenticated and why the survival rate is so incredibly low compared to the total mintage of regular 1995 D pennies, which numbered in the billions. Grading and authentication of the 1995 D double die is absolutely critical because the difference between a genuine example and a counterfeit or altered coin can be the difference between owning a $2 million treasure and owning a coin worth face value. And this is where professional grading services earn their fees, because their experts use advanced imaging technology, microscopic examination, and decades of experience to analyze every aspect of the coin, including the flow lines in the metal, the characteristics of the doubling, the patina and toning that develops naturally over time, and countless other minute details that separate authentic mint errors from fakes. And only coins that pass this rigorous examination receive certification in tamper-evident holders that give buyers confidence they're purchasing the genuine article. The auction where this coin sold for $2 million was a momentous event in the numismatic world, with the sale attracting international media attention and bringing coin collecting into mainstream consciousness in a way that few events have. Because when ordinary people hear that a penny sold for $2 million, it captures their imagination and makes them wonder if they might have valuable coins hiding in their own collections, and this publicity has had the positive effect of bringing new people into the hobby who might never have considered coin collecting before, but are now fascinated by the possibility of finding fortune in their pocket change. The technical specifications of how to identify a genuine 1995 D-double die obverse penny are crucial for anyone searching for this error, and here's exactly what to look for. First, you need a 1995 penny with a D-mint mark indicating it was struck at the Denver Mint. Then you need to examine the obverse or front of the coin very carefully, preferably under magnification of at least 5x to 10x. And look specifically at the word Liberty, where you should see strong doubling on the letters with clear separation between the primary and secondary images. Then check the date 1995, where all 4 digits should show doubling with the numbers appearing to have distinct shadow images. And you can also see doubling on I In God We Trust, although it's less dramatic than on Liberty and the date. And if you see strong, clear, sharp doubling on these elements with good separation between the images, you might have found something extraordinarily valuable. The market for ultra-rare modern errors like the 1995 D-double die operates differently than markets for classic rare coins from the 1800s or early 1900s, because modern errors benefit from the fact that they're recent enough that many collectors remember when these coins were in circulation, creating a personal connection and nostalgia factor that enhances their appeal. Plus, modern errors can be more easily authenticated using contemporary records, mint documentation, and scientific analysis. Techniques that weren't available for older coins, giving buyers additional confidence when making purchases at high price points, and this combination of factors has helped drive prices for the finest 1995 D-double die pennies into the millions of dollars. The metallurgical composition of 1995 pennies is worth understanding because it affects how the coins age and develop patina over time, and by 1995 the U.S. Mint had long since switched to a copper-plated zinc composition for pennies with a core that was 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper covered by a pure copper plating. And this composition means that 1995 pennies weigh only 2.5 grams compared to the 3.11 grams of earlier solid copper pennies. And if a 1995 D penny has been damaged or the plating has been compromised, it can develop zinc rot or corrosion that significantly impacts its value, which is why preservation and proper storage is absolutely essential for maintaining the grade and value of these rare error coins. Stories from dealers and collectors who have handled authentic 1995 D-double die pennies provide fascinating insights into what it's like to hold such a valuable piece of American monetary history, with many describing the experience as surreal because you're holding something that looks like ordinary pocket change but is actually worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. And the responsibility of safeguarding such a coin, ensuring it doesn't get damaged, lost, or stolen, creates a level of stress and pressure that few other collectibles can match, which is why many owners keep these coins in bank safety deposit boxes or secure storage facilities with climate control and 24-hour security. The debate within the numismatic community about exactly how many authentic 1995 D-double die pennies exist continues to rage, with estimates ranging from as few as 3 or 4 confirmed examples to perhaps a dozen or more depending on who you ask and what criteria they use for authentication. And this uncertainty actually enhances the mystique and allure of these coins because collectors know they're pursuing something so rare that even experts can't agree on the population census, making each authenticated example feel even more special and valuable. Investment considerations for coins at this price level move beyond traditional numismatic collecting into the realm of alternative assets and wealth preservation, where ultra-high net worth individuals might purchase coins like the $2 million 1995 D double die as a way to diversify their portfolios, store wealth outside traditional financial systems, and own tangible assets that have intrinsic scarcity and demonstrated market demand. Plus, there's the prestige factor of owning something that almost no one else in the world can have, which appeals to collectors who have already acquired everything else and are looking for the ultimate challenges and treasures. The forensic analysis techniques used to authenticate these coins have advanced dramatically over the past few decades, with experts now using tools like scanning electron microscopy, X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy, and three-dimensional imaging systems that can create detailed maps of the coin's surface down to the microscopic level, allowing authenticators to detect counterfeits and alterations that would have been impossible to catch with earlier technology. And these advances have made the certification process more reliable but also more expensive, with authentication fees for coins at this value level sometimes running into thousands of dollars. But it's money well spent when you're dealing with a potential $2 million asset. The psychology of the hunt is what keeps many collectors engaged in searching for rare errors like the 1995 D double die. Because unlike winning the lottery where success is purely random chance, finding valuable error coins requires knowledge, skill, patience, and the ability to recognize subtle details that others miss, giving searchers a sense of agency and accomplishment when they make discoveries. Even if they never find the ultimate prize, they might find other valuable errors along the way, and this combination of education, treasure hunting, and the potential for life-changing financial rewards creates a hobby that's both intellectually stimulating and potentially lucrative. The historical context of 1995 adds another dimension to these coins because that year was significant in American history for various reasons including technological advances, cultural shifts, and economic conditions, and owning a piece of coinage from that era, especially one with such a dramatic and rare error, creates a tangible connection to that moment in time. And for collectors who were alive in 1995 and remember using these coins in daily life, there's an additional nostalgia factor that makes these errors even more appealing and personal. The impact of major sales like the $2 million 1995 D double die extends far beyond just the buyer and seller involved in that transaction, because these headline-grabbing prices raise awareness of coin collecting, bring new participants into the hobby, drive up interest and values for related coins, and generally strengthen the entire market for numismatic rarities. So in a sense, every collector benefits when one of these spectacular sales occurs because it validates the hobby, demonstrates the investment potential of rare coins, and ensures that future generations will continue to be fascinated by and collect these historical artifacts. The comparison between the 1995 D double die and other famous double die errors from U.S. coinage history helps put its significance in perspective, because collectors often compare it to legendary errors like the 1955 double die cent, which is perhaps the most famous double die in American numismatics. But while the 1955 double die is more widely known and has a larger authenticated population, the 1995 D double die's extreme rarity and modern vintage make it equally, if not more desirable. To certain collectors, especially those who focus on contemporary errors or who want to own the very best and rarest examples regardless of age. Preservation strategies for coins of this value involve sophisticated approaches including professional storage, insurance policies specifically designed for rare numismatic items, documentation of provenance and authentication, regular condition checks to ensure the coin isn't deteriorating, and sometimes even anonymous ownership structures to protect privacy and security, because when you own something worth $2 million that's small enough to fit in your pocket, you need to think carefully about safety, security, and risk management in ways that owners of less valuable coins never need to consider. The educational value of studying coins like the 1995 D double die extends beyond just learning to identify errors, because examining these coins teaches you about the minting process, metallurgy, manufacturing quality control, economics of supply and demand, market dynamics, authentication techniques, and countless other topics that intersect in the world of numismatics, making coin collecting an incredibly rich and multifaceted hobby that engages both the intellectual and emotional sides of participants. And this depth is part of what keeps serious collectors engaged for decades or even lifetimes. The future outlook for coins like the 1995 D double die is fascinating to consider because as time passes and the coins age, some will be lost to accidents, damage, or other factors that reduce the population of surviving examples, making remaining specimens even rarer and theoretically more valuable, while simultaneously, new authentication techniques might discover examples that were previously missed or wrongly attributed, potentially increasing the known population and predicting which of these forces will dominate is difficult, but most experts believe that ultra-rare modern errors like this will continue to appreciate in value over the long term as more people enter the hobby and competition for the finest examples intensifies. The emotional satisfaction that comes from owning or even just seeing one of these incredible error coins in person is difficult to describe to someone who isn't involved in numismatics, but collectors often speak of feeling a deep sense of awe and connection when handling coins like the $2 million 1995 D double die, knowing they're touching something that represents the pinnacle of their hobby, that embodies decades of searching and scholarship by the numismatic community, and that connects them to a historical moment when something went wrong at the mint and created this accidental treasure that has now become one of the most prized possessions in all of American coinage. The verification process for coins at this price level involves multiple layers of scrutiny, including submission to top-tier grading services, possible examination by additional independent experts, comparison to photographic plate coins and reference examples, review of die characteristics and markers, and sometimes even presentation to the Numismatic Crime Task Force or other authorities if there's any question about the coin's legitimacy. Because with this much money at stake, every possible precaution must be taken to ensure authenticity, and this exhaustive verification process, while time-consuming and expensive, ultimately protects both buyers and sellers and maintains confidence in the rare coin market. The community aspect of collecting major errors like the 1995 D double die creates bonds between collectors who share this passion, with online forums, social media groups, and in-person clubs providing venues where people can discuss their searches, share information about authentication, celebrate discoveries, and support each other through the challenges and disappointments that come with pursuing extremely rare coins. And this sense of community and shared purpose adds immeasurably to the enjoyment of the hobby and helps explain why people remain passionate collectors for years or decades. The final thought I want to leave you with about the 1995 D double die Lincoln penny worth $2 million is this. This coin proves that incredible treasures can still be found in modern coinage, that you don't need to hunt through coins from the 1800s to potentially discover something extraordinarily valuable, and that the combination of knowledge, patience, and careful examination can lead to life-changing discoveries. So the next time you receive pennies in change or come across an old coin jar, take a moment to look closely at those 1995 D pennies, grab a magnifying glass and check for doubling on Liberty and the date, because somewhere out there, hidden in circulation or forgotten in a drawer, there may be additional examples of this error waiting to be discovered, and you could be the person who finds the next one, making you an instant millionaire and adding your story to the rich tapestry of numismatic history. So keep searching, keep learning, and never stop, believing that fortune might be hiding in plain sight in your pocket change. Because in the world of error coins, dreams really do come true, and the next big discovery could happen any day, to anyone, anywhere, and it might just be you.